I do see that many business owners then quickly, once they get an idea, they quickly pivot then to the next question, which is why?
Exactly.
Why is my company only valued at $10 million? Or why is my company valued at $50 million?
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider, hanging out in another special edition of the Exit Is Now podcast at our EPI Partner Summit. So broadcasting from EPI HQ, where roughly 30 or 40 individuals that represent about 30 different companies came into Cleveland over the last couple of days for what we call our EPI Partner Summit. It is a place and time once a year where we kind of slow down to speed up, and we bring some of the key VIPs like chapter presidents, sponsors, partners, people that really help power and influence the exit planning community and the EPI community specifically. We bring them all together to drive some clarity, vision, and alignment in kind of a two-day format. So I said, hey, once I have some quality people like my friend Shina here in town, we have to do a special series showcasing some of these, I think, critical path partners that allow our CEPAs to grow into or become that most valued and trusted advisor. So I'd like to welcome Shina to our show from Quist Valuation. I think Shina's a familiar name. Many of you probably have seen her through our EPI faculty. And so I wanted to bring her in today primarily to talk about valuation. And one of the things I've learned from Shina specifically is the different types of valuations throughout the value acceleration methodology. And I think it's a key thing for many CEPAs to understand some different types. So over the next few minutes in the show, next 30 minutes or so, we'll kind of dive into the valuation world. Before we do, I'd love for you to tell us, given we're at the Partner Summit, how do you come to market for our certified exit planning advisors? Tell us a little bit about your firm and how you can be a part of that exit planning team.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me, Scott. Yeah. It's great to see you.
Yeah.
So I think first and foremost, the thing to understand about who we are is that we are a business valuation specialist firm. The only thing that we do, I tell people, the only thing that we do all day, every day, 24/7, 365 days a year is business valuations. Mm-hmm. So some folks who have worked with business valuation specialists in the past, maybe they've been a part of a CPA firm or investment advisory firm, and valuation is kind of a side product or service of that overall firm. But really, business valuation is the only thing that we do all day, every day. So, and we've been doing that for 40 years. So what I like to tell and share with CEPAs, especially new CEPAs, is they should think of us as their valuation expert that they can lean on to answer all their questions about valuations. And not all valuations are created equal. And I think the one of the most challenging aspects for especially new CEPAs is we talk about valuation very ubiquitously, it means one thing, and valuation certainly doesn't mean one thing. As you know, and we talk about during this CEPA certification program, it really is purpose dependent. What is the business owner trying to achieve? What is the advisor trying to achieve with the business owner? That's really going to drive the type of valuation they need. And I'm sure we're going to go into all of that.
Well, let's dive into
that. But that's
complicated. It is. I think it is. It was interesting for me, and you might not know this, actually, is that you influenced me in writing the 2023 State of Owner Readiness Survey. So if people are familiar, and if you're unfamiliar, go to ownerreadiness.com and you can get some of this data points. But in 2013 and all the regional ones, even the one we did in Colorado, we asked the business owner, in the last 2 years, have you gotten a valuation? But after hearing you teach, and these, I think you call it like phases of valuation or valuation throughout the phases of the value acceleration methodology, we've had in the 2023 version, we asked that same question, but then we followed it up to say, if you answered yes, what was it for? Mm-hmm. And it was really interesting to see, and it was like there was not one option that really stood out. But it was interesting to see the 1,500 business owners that took the survey, why they got that survey or why they got that valuation. And I think it's important because it might not be the right valuation for what they were looking for at the time or the question that were asking. The question that we were asking was really around, do you understand the present value of your company, and is that leading you to close your value gap? But some people say, I just got one because I tried to value it to gift it to my son or daughter, or I got one for estate planning purposes, or I got one, but it was because I got a divorce. Mm-hmm. And so talk to us a little bit about the purposes of all those types of valuations, and then we'll kind of reverse and start at the ground level and talk about identifying value. But let's talk about the different purposes, because I find it fascinating and directly related to the readiness survey.
Yeah. So I think the best way to think about valuation is to think about it in the gates of the value acceleration methodology. Mm-hmm. And so in that first gate of discovery, valuation can be as simple as a calculation of value or some sort of benchmark value, an estimate of value, and there's all sorts of tools and easy math and rules of thumb that could be used in that initial discovery gate. Because really, I explain it like we're just trying to figure out. Sometimes it's just like we're just trying to figure out what sport we're playing. Are we playing football, or are we playing baseball, or are we playing basketball? Like where kind of are we? Mm-hmm. And then once we can orient ourselves with a range of value or an estimate of value, then we can figure out, we're playing baseball. Great. Now, how are we going to get to first base? How are we going to get to second base? Exactly, once we orient ourselves with sort of what game we're playing. Mm-hmm. And then as we move on through that value acceleration methodology, we get to the preparation gate. And I really break down that preparation into two pieces, a business prep and a personal prep. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So under that business prep, I find that business owners typically will need, it's more event driven, meaning that business owners will find themselves at a point where they want to bring in a key manager into the cap structure or into the ownership structure, or they've identified some employees that they want to reward, maybe through an option plan or a profit interest plan. So those are sort of event-driven triggers that would cause a valuation need. Yeah. And it's to grow the value of the company through, let's say, employee retention in this example. So in that regard, the valuation becomes very specific. So all of a sudden we get into standards of value, fair value, fair market value. There's typically some financial reporting or tax requirements around what needs to be in that valuation report. So you're definitely moving off of a estimate of value. You typically are going to need some very specific pieces of information to be documented within that valuation to have it be a certified valuation or be a full appraisal. Yep. So then moving on from there, the other part of that prepare gate is on a personal side. Yeah. So business owners typically will want to do some complex wealth transfer planning into trust or do charitable donation. So that then gets very, very complicated sometimes and specific, because all of a sudden now you're dealing with the IRS and what the IRS requires to be in that valuation. And then lastly is obviously the exit. And that is very different because sometimes then the business owner has a very specific buyer in mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? It could be
at
a
that point, right?
private equity buyer.
Yeah.
It could be a strategic buyer. But all of a sudden, it does change the dynamic of the valuation because you're like, okay, if you're going to sell into this specific strategic market for a specific synergy play, well, what parts of my business are going to drive that valuation? Because it might be different for different buyers.
Yeah, I think it has to be, right, in terms of like we talk about the ESOP, right? There's a certain type of valuation we're looking for there. There's probably a certain type of valuation for just a pure financial buyer, or there might be a ton of synergies if you have a private equity buyer come in, right? So they're probably looking at value, to your point, in different ways.
Right. And so, yeah, and so there's different types of valuations you need across the value acceleration methodology. But the most complicated piece of it, and I think that we all deal with this as advisors, is that the business owner, more often than not, have multiple purposes that they're trying to accomplish with a single valuation. And that is where you really do want then to have a valuation partner to help walk you as an advisor through that complexity, because you certainly wouldn't want to use a valuation that you're using for divorce purposes to be the same valuation that you're using for, let's say, going out and selling your company.
Yeah, a private equity buyout.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you've got very different purposes in mind and different definitions of quote unquote value.
So I think it sounds like purpose is a key, like a key term, whether it's advisor or business owner, to identify first, right? It's like, why do I need the valuation? What am I trying to accomplish? Is that fair to say? Understand purpose first?
It's always my number one question.
And can your firm go through and do all those different types of valuations, or are you looking at the estimate of value versus the certified value? Can you talk about navigating that as a partner here in EPI?
Yeah. So, like I said, so we are first and foremost a group of certified, qualified valuation specialists. But I recognized, I think it was back in 2016.
Okay, yeah.
It's been a while.
Yep.
2016, I was getting a ton of calls from business owners and advisors about wanting their companies valued, but not because of that event-driven triggering, purpose, but because they were curious. And this is before I was involved with maybe EPI. Yeah. They were just curious. And there just wasn't an affordable way to solve their curiosity. Yeah. So back in 2016, we started creating platform solutions that were, low barrier to entry to understand the value of their company. We took our 100 best questions that we would always ask during a detailed management due diligence interview, put that on a platform, and now we do have 2 platform solutions that we do license and sell to CEPA advisors for that triggering discovery gate of the value acceleration methodology. I think that it's a, whether it's our tool or other tools, that's really good for that initial planning conversation to get that business owner starting that conversation as an advisor.
Totally agree. I think it's a catalyst, right?
Yes.
You've been in the CEPA community and deeply involved for a long time. We're looking for that conversation starter, right? Most owners don't actually have a true understanding of value. And I think going like super deep right away is probably the wrong answer. But you also don't want to give the wrong number, right? So I think, having a good range is critical as well, or a good number as a starting point. But I totally agree. Like, when you're inside of that discover gate 1, or if you're looking at our 5 stages of value maturity, you can't possibly get up to manage value at the top of the staircase if we haven't identified what we have. So we need a starting point to identify what we have today, what we could potentially have, and what we call, in more technical terms, the value gap. So I'm totally with you there too. A starting point is critical.
A starting point is critical, but I do see that many business owners then quickly, once they get an idea, they quickly pivot then to the next question, which is, why?
Exactly.
Why is my company only valued at $10 million, or why is my company valued at $50 million? Right. And if it is, then I want to keep doing what I'm doing well, but why?
Why?
And I think, that is my favorite part of the job, to be honest.
Yeah.
As a business owner, I love sitting down with other business owners and saying, oh my gosh, you have that problem, I have that problem.
Yep.
You've tackled this challenge in that particular way. I've thought about it this other way. Or we have clients in your exact same space, and this is what we see best practices looking like.
Yeah.
We really encourage you to do that too.
Yeah.
So the answering the question of why is really important. One, because it's fun, but also because it gives the business owner the insight to figure out what they should start, stop, and keep doing, which is the exercise we did today, right?
Yeah,
Scott?
right. Yeah, exactly. What we did today at our partner summit. Yeah, absolutely. I think it gives you a lot of insights. And so let's talk a little bit about, as you go deeper, right? You kind of talked about, okay, we're moving from this discovery phase now to a deeper phase, maybe even to a certified valuation phase. You kind of talked about what that experience would be like. I think when I looked at, when we started doing the drivevalue.com more owner-facing stuff, we started surveying business owners and what piqued their interest and what do they want to learn about, what are their pain points, what are their desires. They have this whole thing around valuation, and it's not the early valuation. It's, okay, now let's dive deeper, and what do I need to prepare for? So now say we're in the prepare gate, I'm going deeper on a valuation. What is that experience like? You talked to, I don't know if the audience caught it, you talked about management interviews or owner interviews. What's the process that I should anticipate if I were to dive deeper from just this basic identification of value to let's dive deeper and more perhaps in a certified way?
I'll share with you what our process is, which I think is very similar to most valuation firms. So it starts with the collection of key pieces of company documentation. So that looks like it's going to be 5 years of historical financials.
Okay.
It is going to be at minimum the current year's budget, preferably a 3-year projection. And this is key because if business owners or management teams have not put together a forecast or a projection set, it is an immediate red flag that they haven't really thought about what drives the revenue of their company and how they're going to control costs moving forward. So they just tend to be on their heels more than really proactive in the business. It's just a key immediate red flag. You're like, okay. So then we're going to ask for all the corporate documentation because we want to see what governance mechanisms are in place to make decisions within the organization. And we'll ask about, a profile of all their management team, how long they've been with the company, who their perceived competitors are. We ask about what trade association they're following because it gives us insight about what they're keyed in on in terms of what's driving their industry. So we like to understand what they're looking at.
Yeah.
Of course, if they've already had any sort of inside transactions in the business, any litigation issues, we want to understand that. So we provide a full document request list. So that's just step number one. And it sounds obvious, but that often can be just a hurdle in of itself, collecting documentation.
I think that from a business owner's perspective, my gears are already turning because I'm thinking, if I'm an owner, man, do I have all that stuff readily available? And are you going to be able to interpret it? So maybe one of the when we talk about financials, for example, do my financials need to be audited or reviewed? Or can I give you like my QuickBooks file? What are you looking for?
We don't require audit or review.
Okay.
So QuickBooks files are great.
And tax returns?
And tax returns.
And then how critical is it that my profit and loss statement match my tax return? Or at least how close do I need to be? Because as we all know, owners move money around, so it's not going to look the same. But I know, and this came up today for us, was how critical are those P&Ls matching that tax return? What are you looking for there?
Yeah, so So I would say if they don't match, we're just going to be inquiring how to reconcile it. So
Okay.
as long as we understand how to reconcile it, that's all we care. We're
Okay.
not
Okay.
we're not
That's good.
auditors. We're not CPAs. We're not here to
And if your CPA can explain everything too,
Yeah.
you feel confident there as
yeah,
well.
but we want to be able
Okay,
to just
fair.
reconcile it and say, okay, we get it, we understand. It gives us obviously some insight to financial management and how
Exactly.
well controlled that is. We will ask about questions about one-time expenses or personal expenses running through the business. That's part of our natural process. But so once we collect documentation, and the analyst will then spread all the financials. They'll reconcile the
Yep.
financials, and they'll start doing industry research. So that happens in, let's say, week 1, week 2, and then that week 3, we do that management interview. And we will send over a list of management interview questions ahead of time just so that they understand how we're going to go through the questions and
sure.
let them prepare a little bit. But it's your typical SWOT analysis. How do you make money?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
What happens if you're off budget? Who are your competitors? Who are your customers? Do you have contracts in place? It's pretty your basic SWOT analysis and due diligence questions.
Okay.
But it does go through. So it does go through company history, your marketing strategy, who your customers are, who your competitors are, who your people are on your team, and what are their roles and responsibilities. And then we usually ask about broad industry macro trends. Then we start getting into financials in terms of trends that we see, how they put together their budgets, and then we always end on sort of what are your 3 perceived opportunities in the marketplace, and then what are challenges.
Okay.
That's just how we structure
Yeah, sure.
our discussions. And then once we do that, then the analysts will take that information and then they're able to synthesize around the valuation techniques and approaches. And we have a number of internal meetings then we conduct to vet that value. Once we're on the same page internally, then those findings get written up in a report. And it, depending on what the purpose is, it depends on the size of the report, and then goes through 2 quality control ratings. But it sounds like a lot. It doesn't. It's about a 6-week process,
sure.
But it's pretty standard. I think any valuation firm that's giving good quality work is going to go through something around that sort of basic
So
process.
then week 6, 7, you're sitting back down with the owner, and maybe that's the hardest part, is you have to now present the value of the company. And are you doing that work, particularly at your firm? Are you the one that goes out owner to owner, or do you have a team that goes out?
So I have a team. I book what I call bookend the process. So I'm on the front end when I engage and understand the scope of the work that's needed with the advisor and the business owner, and then I'm typically on that back end, listening in terms of what is the business owner's questions, how is the team responding, are there follow-up items that we need to look at to help them further. But usually it's the analyst team that's doing it. But that's their favorite part of the job too, is explaining their work, because that's where the real value comes in terms of this is why we looked at these approaches, this is why we made these assumptions, this is what we heard you say that caused us concern, and this is what we heard you say that we're really impressed with the business. So they go through that whole walkthrough in the report, and that is also the client's favorite part of the process too.
Yeah. Well, it's got to be super interactive, right? So you're learning all kinds of different stuff, whether you maybe sometimes agree with it or not, right? I think it creates a healthy discussion that I think business owners need, right? I mean, inside of our value acceleration methodology that we teach, you should be doing this stuff every single year, right? So we should always be deeply understanding the value of your company so we understand how we can hit that prepare gate again and continue to grow.
Yeah, and most owners, don't always like what we have to say.
I'm sure it's a tough one for sometimes.
But it also provides an opportunity to say, okay, we hear what you're saying. You're right. We haven't had the controls that we need on expenses like we thought we we want to have? What are some suggestions that you have? If we were able to improve our margins up, what would that mean to value? And so we're able to, because we have such a deep insight to the business, we're able to help them with that and give them the market data to benchmark the company appropriately.
Hi there, my name is Casey Clark. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cultivate Advisors. We love working alongside wealth managers to help increase the enterprise value of the companies you work with, helping them speed up liquidity events, growing their profitability, ultimately helping you attract and retain more business owners. So we start by giving you a free online assessment tool. Now, this is a tool that only takes about 10 to 15 minutes for each of the companies you work with to take. After they take it, it's going to help kick out a 25-page customized report. It's going to help them understand what's the value of their company currently. Additionally, it's going to help break down the 24 value drivers that make up the health of the business. And that will together show the gap required if they were to solve those things that could help increase their enterprise value and help them become more educated. Now, as a partner of yours, we're going to match them with a past entrepreneur that's been extremely successful to sit down for several hours at no cost. And what we're going to do is we're going to help them think through the enterprise value of where they want to go, what the timeline of potential exit might be, and we're going to work it all the way back into what are the different growth rates required. How does the health score need to move and at what rate? We're even going to get into the problem solving of goals and road mapping of what the growth will look like as they continue forward in the organization. This is super, super impactful. How do business owners know what they don't know? Well, it's called getting third-party perspective, and we're here to offer that alongside you as their wealth manager.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CEPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
So maybe changing gears a little bit, this has been a big topic for us internally at EPI, and obviously given an organization, EPI, that represents professional advisors and professional advice. What do you think the impact of AI is on the valuation world? What do you? It's a random question. It popped in my head when you started to talk. I asked Shina because all that you just described to me is like a deep relationship that you have to have, right? You're asking perhaps some tough questions. We're having discussions. You're capturing all of that. You have to get financial documents. But if we rewind to maybe that first few minutes of the show when we were just talking about a number, I think AI might have an impact on that. I'm worried that it's the wrong number, right? That, I don't know, I think it's something like 70 or 80% of the stuff that you read now in that AI little search, right, is accurate. And so what do you think that looks like for the future of valuation?
So my answer to that is I think that AI can be a useful tool if you're maybe looking at a market approach, because there's so much information out in the marketplace about multiples on transactions of businesses.
Okay.
That, I think you're right. Over time, that is going to become more and more available,
accessible to business owners.
Through AI and just the internet in general, especially as people are putting that information maybe purposely, maybe unpurposely out there into the universe. But for us, we tend to give the most consideration to an income approach, which is really assessing what is the company's cash flow generating ability today and into the future. And that discount rate that gets applied to present valuing those cash flows back to a value today, that is the judgment part. When people talk about valuation is science and art, that's art is really another name for its judgment based on experience.
Exactly.
So that discount rate is based on judgment and a perceived understanding of a company's risk profile, both its tangible and intangible risks, right?
Yeah, sure.
So
totally.
In some ways, that is harder to get an AI just to assess that, make that judgment.
Exactly right.
Right? I think
totally
it's easier to use AI to go, okay, we're going to canvas the universe, canvas the internet and canvas the universe and understand what the median multiple is for, a manufacturing company in a certain segment.
Yes.
And I can get the median multiple and apply it to my company and get it.
Here we go. Right.
Here we go.
Yeah.
But it's harder to take those years of experience and judgment and apply appropriate discount rate. And I think and I do think that an income approach is the more appropriate valuation methodology to use if you don't know yet what that exit's going to look like. Because most businesses transfer internally.
I would totally agree, right? I don't think the owner necessarily is coming to get the valuation knowing exactly what option they have. They're coming to what you said earlier. They just want to know what the number is so they can perhaps start beginning the plan. And I think it kind of discounts a little bit like the hybrid exit. I think we're going to see more of that as we look into the next 5 or 10 years of multiple bites of the apple.
Yeah.
Certainly internal being a lot of that, or like an entrepreneurship through acquisition type purchase as well. But I totally agree that again, I think it also just goes back to the purpose of the valuation as well.
Yeah. But judgment, I'm feeling still pretty confident in my job that I'll have a job.
Well, I think in the we're in the advice space, right?
Right.
And I think as you've seen EPI over even the last 12 to 18 months, the AI conversation keeps coming up, and then you have, I think the owners of the future, people in their 50s, 40s, 30s, and even 20s, they're looking at the professional advisor for a relationship, not necessarily a transaction. And so I think going back to State of Owner Readiness Survey, that's, I think, one of the reasons you've seen financial advisors move up as trusted advisors and attorneys and CPAs move down, because it's transaction versus relationship. But I do agree. I don't think folks like you or me or some of our CEPAs certainly our CEPAs in our community, there's that relationship thing that AI bot or whatever we call it, right? They just, that expertise, that knowledge, they I don't know if they have.
I don't think it can do it. So our longest tenured client is 25 years.
Wow.
Family-owned business, 100 years old, and they've been using us annually for 25 years to do their valuations because they have internal transfers amongst family members.
Sure.
But, they tell us, they're like, you are sort of our documentarian. Like, you document the progress of our company year after year after year. And the pager has like all of our valuations sitting up behind them from.
Yeah, they're proud too, because I'm assuming it's growing.
Yeah, because the value is growing. We've documented the progress of their company over the last 25 years. They haven't had to write it. We rewrite it for them, and so they really love that piece of it. Maybe it sounds a little old school, but they do like an outside third party coming in and saying, "Hey, it's not our assessment; it's your assessment. You're telling us what you think how well we're achieving on plan and what we're doing to increase value." And so they love that sort of documentation. And that's where AI has really helped us, because we're able to transcription notes is a form of AI too,
Exactly,
right?
right.
You're
Of
recording
course.
the transcript, you're synthesizing what's being said, so that we like AI for that purpose and helping
Exactly.
us synthesize the notes and the thoughts and the.
I always smile and laugh too, because it's like sometimes we're worried, but sometimes we're using it as well, right? So it's like we have the conversation all the time with particularly our marketing team, and now we're starting to have it on member services. How can we better serve our members through, I think, like easy, accessible, like go-to knowledge, and sometimes just type in your answer as a CEPA, and you want some quick answers without having to pick up the phone and call somebody. I think AI in that scenario could be beneficial as well.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we're at the top of the show, so I appreciate you spending some extra time here in Cleveland with all of us. I always appreciate your partnership, and obviously Shina's information will be all in the show notes. So I hope you enjoyed the valuation conversation. She goes much deeper inside of our courses and inside of her content as well. But I really appreciate the time. I appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We will, our next episode, November 12th. So check us out on all of your podcast platforms. Please listen and leave a review. I appreciate it. Thanks again.